The draft further proposed a phased redeployment of security personnel from densely populated areas of Gaza, including Gaza City and Khan Yunis. This process was to be monitored through a structured international oversight mechanism led by Indonesian participation and referenced in official OIC statements, ensuring stability during the transitional phase. The proposal explicitly rejected annexation of Area C in the West Bank. This area is home to nearly 700,000 Jewish settlers and over 3.2 million Palestinians. It also pledged $50 billion in U.S.-led reconstruction assistance for Gaza, echoing the economic cooperation principles of the 1993 Oslo Accords. Provisions allowing conditional amnesty for Hamas members complying with peace terms acknowledged the group's political origins and administrative role since 2007. This offered a potential opening for Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, whose Fatah party governs the West Bank from Ramallah, although timelines for a Palestinian state along the 1967 borders remained undefined. Arab nations including Saudi Arabia and Jordan viewed the draft as a workable foundation for negotiations. The framework aligned with the intent of UN Resolution 242, which calls for withdrawal from territories occupied after the 1967 war. This reinforced the argument that sustainable peace is impossible without Palestinian sovereignty. Netanyahu's subsequent revisions dismantled this balance entirely. They reinforced a doctrine of prolonged Israeli control while sidelining Palestinian political agency. On September 28, 2025, inside the White House Roosevelt Room, Netanyahu leveraged his Likud party's firm opposition to territorial compromise to reshape the proposal. The finalized 20-point plan, according to the September 29 White House press release, conditioned Israeli troop redeployment on Israel's unilateral security assessment. It formalized an extended security buffer along Gaza's Philadelphia corridor near the Rafah border. This structure reflected the post-2005 disengagement model, in which ground forces withdrew while external control persisted. It was consistent with Netanyahu's post-October 2023 policy declarations. Governance provisions were removed as Palestinian Authority inclusion was replaced with a technocratic committee operating under international supervision involving the United States, the European Union, and selected Arab states. Israel retained veto authority, marginalizing both the Ramallah-based authority and Hamas's organizational framework. Timelines for detainee returns were tightened to 72 hours to secure immediate outcomes. Palestinian prisoner releases were made conditional on verified disarmament processes overseen by Israeli security agencies. These revisions exposed the proposal's structural imbalance. They demanded unilateral concessions without reciprocal Israeli commitments, such as halting settlement expansion in Hebron or East Jerusalem, where more than 220,000 settlers reside among millions of Palestinians. Assurances rejecting West Bank annexation and allocating $10 billion for water infrastructure projects in Deir al-Balah appeared largely symbolic. They echoed past initiatives like Camp David that collapsed under similar asymmetries and preceded renewed cycles of confrontation. The plan also closely resembled the 2020 deal of the century. According to the Carnegie Endowment, that plan prioritized political optics over viable diplomacy. Veteran negotiators described it as one of the most destabilizing proposals due to its constraints on Palestinian statehood and expansion of Israeli regional leverage. Regional responses revealed significant fractures across the Arab and Muslim world. These fractures weakened collective political alignment and created conditions for future instability. On October 1, 2025, foreign ministers from 8 OIC nations issued a joint statement in Cairo. They supported structured verification mechanisms while demanding full Israeli withdrawal and opposing forced population displacement. This concern was critical given the relocation of nearly 1.9 million Palestinians since October 2023. Officials from Qatar and Egypt expressed concern over Israel's dominant influence. They warned that the proposed security zone resembled the demilitarized Sinai framework imposed under the 1979 Egypt-Israel Treaty. Jordan's King Abdullah II cautioned against a broader regional escalation reminiscent of population movements following the 1967 conflict. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan criticized the proposal as a coordinated geopolitical maneuver. Saudi Arabia's muted response signaled implicit reservation. This mirrored reactions to the 2020 plan, which was rejected by Palestinian leadership and viewed by regional populations as abandonment. Pakistan's nuanced position further exposed divisions within the Muslim world under external pressure. President Trump publicly praised the stated support of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir, During a September 26, 2025 Oval Office meeting, Pakistan's foreign minister later clarified Islamabad's alignment with OIC conditions. He rejected the plan unless humanitarian access was ensured, a stance that triggered large public demonstrations domestically. Pakistan's position, shaped by international financial obligations and regional alliances, underscores broader efforts to normalize Israeli dominance through select Sunni partner states following the Abraham Accords. At the same time, Pakistan maintained its long-standing diplomatic support for Palestinian self-determination and a two-state solution. The contradictions embedded within Trump's Gaza plan lay the groundwork for prolonged instability. They sidelined Palestinian aspirations and undermined regional peace. What was once a negotiable diplomatic framework was replaced by a directive consolidating Israeli authority over Gaza's limited territory. Analysts warn that without a credible framework grounded in dignity, equity, and sovereignty, cycles of instability will persist across the Levant. This view is echoed by international scholars and policy journals, which caution that coercive diplomacy carries serious risks of backlash and long-term regional destabilization.